welcome to Good Grief, the podcast dedicated to demystifying and destigmatizing grief with compassion and humor. I am Nikki. I'm an end-of-life doula and a grief coach here in Columbus, Ohio. Thank you for tuning in this week. So today we are going to talk about the 6 central needs of mourning. Sounds very uplifting, right? Okay. So this list and information comes from the book Companioning the Bereaved by Dr. Alan Wolfelt, who you will hear me talk about a lot if you haven't already, because I love this guy. He's amazing. Anyway, and this book was the textbook for my grief coaching class. So I will probably reference it quite a bit, as well as some of other of Wolfelt's materials. But today, we're going to focus specifically on the 6 central needs of mourning and what is needed to work through our grief. So we're just going to dive right in, talk through this list one thing at a time. So this first one is a bit of a hard sell for some people, and myself included at times. It's kind of like that very first step in Alcoholics Anonymous or any of those 12-step programs, is acknowledging the problem at hand. It's very easy, especially if the loss is new, to want to deny it, to want to reject it. Okay, but let's face it, these feelings are hard and they hurt and they're painful. And we're hardwired as humans to not want to feel hard and hurtful and painful feelings. Am I right? And notice I'm trying really hard not to use the word bad, because feelings aren't bad. They are neither bad nor good. They are feelings. But the feelings surrounding loss and grief, specifically in regards to death loss, are painful and they're hard, and it's hard to accept. It's easy to not want to accept that that person is not coming back. I say it's easy. It's hard, but it's easier to deal with the hurt and the loss to not accept that a death has occurred. But it's like that first step in Alcoholics Anonymous I referenced earlier. If you can't get past that, you can't start to heal. And I'm not saying you have to immediately sit down and say, well, they're dead. That's good Lord. But you have to just accept the reality. This person is not coming back. This person is dead. A death has occurred and it's not going to reverse, right? Death isn't reversible. And like anything I'll reference in learning to live with grief, it's not a linear process. You know, there are steps back from time to time. You can immediately accept the death and then 2 weeks later not accept it. It's like the stages of grief. Nothing is linear, and things like this aren't going to happen in order, and they're not going to be neat and like you do step 1 and step 1's over. You do step 2's over. It's like, again, I'll just keep going back to referencing the 12-step program. You can't process the other steps until you process the ones before them, but you're always going to have to go back to those previous steps. When I attended Al-Anon meetings in the past, I struggled with the first step a lot. And even once I got to that point where I could get past that and work on the other steps, it was hard. Every now and then I'd go back to that first one again, because I would have trouble accepting that I was powerless, over the alcoholism of those around me. Or to alcoholism in general. This is a step, it's a crucial first step that cannot just be skipped over or done with. You're going to come back to this one again and again. So, all right, let's move on. Need number 2, and these aren't really steps, these are needs. And again, like I said, these aren't in linear order. These aren't, okay, this is how you get over grief. You're going to do step 1 and step 2 and step 3. We don't do that. And we don't get over grief, right? Okay. We all know this by now. So need number 2 is to feel the pain of the loss. So again, pain is one of those things we're hardwired to try to not. We don't want to feel it. It's bad, right? Pain is bad. Pain is not always bad. Pain is sometimes necessary. Physical pain is how we know something is wrong. Something needs to stop happening. You put your hand on a hot stove and it hurts like hell because you need to take your hand off that hot stove. Pain, we don't like it. I don't like it. Nobody likes it. Pain sucks, right? But we have to feel it to recognize its presence and to accept it and move with it, right? And there's all different types of pain. Grief can cause physical pain. It can cause stomach aches, headaches, sleeplessness, restlessness, nausea. I know sometimes when I've been experiencing extreme grief, I feel a little nauseous and I've got that pit in my stomach. Those are physical pains we might feel. Maybe it'll aggravate other health conditions we have. But there's social pain, spiritual pain, obviously emotional pain, cognitive pain. We could have cognitive issues. I plan on talking at some point about grief fog and grief brain. Those are things. And those are things that we will feel. But we have to face our pain. It's like if a bear's charging at you and you turn your back on that bear, what's going to happen, right? He's going to eat you. You have to face that bear. And I can go on and on about bear attacks because I've learned a lot about that in researching for backpacking. But this isn't the podcast for that. Once you accept that you can't avoid the pain and you can't just skip around it and you learn to face it, that's when it lessens its control over you. You can't let pain control your life. You have to, it's not a control thing. You can't control it and you can't let it control you. When you face it head on, you can learn to take your control back. It's not going to make it go away. It's not going to make it bigger or lesser. It's still going to be there, but you can be in control of it. You can manage it in the way that you see best. Right. Okay. Need number 3. The need to remember the person who has died. So this is dependent on the relationship with the deceased, the relationship to the person who was lost, right? But we're going to assume the relationship with the person you lost was okay or stable in some manner. But if you've lost somebody who was dear to you, somebody you really loved, you want to remember them, right? I think we all want to try to remember the people we've lost. We don't want to just, well, they're gone. Guess I don't have to think about them ever again. No, but the need to remember them and honor them in your own way is so very important, because if we forget them, every person we meet has an impact on our life in some way, shape, or form, right? Whether we know it or not. And if it's somebody who has had a profound impact on your life, or somebody you were very close to and cared for very deeply, forgetting them is forgetting that entire part of yourself and everything of yourself that was around this person. So it's not just remembering that person, but remembering who you are and who you were with this person. And that's easy for me to sit here and say because, again, we're hardwired not to want to feel pain, right? And sometimes remembering the person that we lost hurts because we're remembering the fact that they're gone now and we don't have them in our lives anymore. But pushing them out, again, it's pushing away a part of ourselves. We just need to find a new way to remember them and a new way to feel about them now that they are in the past tense. Their presence is still in your life, even though they're physically not here anymore. They still have an impact on you and who you are as a person. I mean, my brother's been gone 6 years at this point, and he still impacts who I am as a person. And our relationship still impacts me as the person that I am today. It's different than the person I was when he was alive, but I still remember him every day, and I still remember him and how he has impacted me. So everybody needs to find their own way to remember this person, whether it's you do something physical, like once a year you have a celebration in their honor, or you don't even have to. Just holding that person in your heart and holding them and letting them shape your personality and how you face the world. That's whatever works for you. It can be something grand. It could be something small. It could be a coffee cup you use every day that they loved. It could be the way you smile at a stranger on the street because that's something they did. Okay, we'll move on. So, which leads into actually the next one, the fourth need, the need to develop a new self-identity. Now, I'm not saying that when somebody passes away, you need to become a whole new person. Don't do that, and don't do that right away. Good Lord. Never make Never, never, never make bold or huge life-changing choices right after somebody has died. Don't do it. It's a terrible idea. You don't need to be a whole new person, but you will be a new person. You will not be this person you were when that person was still alive. You will still be the same person, obviously, but a different form of yourself. Because as I said previously, everyone impacts your life and shapes who you are. Our relationships with the people in the world around us is what shapes who we are. And now that that person isn't there affecting your everyday life, especially if it's somebody, you were very close with, somebody maybe you talk to every single day, a spouse, a parent, a child, you don't have that physical ability to interact with them on a daily basis. And that might change who you are as a person. If it's a really impactful loss, like the loss of a spouse or a child, even a parent, I have a good friend who is constantly telling me, when you lose your mother, that's a loss you can't get over. I feel terrible. She lost her mom a long time ago, but she's like, it's been decades and I'm still not over it. And I keep reminding her, you don't get over grief. I keep reminding you guys, you don't get over grief. But you become a different person after a significant loss, right? And at the beginning of that, when you start realizing you're not the same person, it's jarring and it kind of sucks, right? Like, I don't want to be this new person. I want to be the old person. I want this person I lost to still be with me. Well, they're not, and they can't be. They're gone. And you're going to be a different person, and it's a process to accept that. You're not going to accept it right away. Like, okay, well, so and so's gone. Guess I'm this person now. It's a process. But you will develop a new self-identity, and learning what it is and how you are now going to face the world with this loss and with this grief is a huge step to get through. Okay. Are we ready for a deep one? Oh man. Okay. Need number 5. The need to search for meaning. Oh yeah, I told you that was going to be a big one. So I think we can all agree when we suffer a significant loss, we're going to question everything, right? What's the point of anything? What's the point of life? What's the point of death? What's the point of relationships when we're all just going to die? Well, that's quite a jump, right? But we're going to question, why did this happen? Especially if it's a traumatic loss or a sudden loss, death due to like violence or an accident or something very unexpected. You're absolutely going to question everything. Why did this have to happen? This is when spirituality and religion can come into play. Why did God let this happen? Why did Yahweh or, the deity of your belief system, why did they allow this to happen? I'm not saying everybody says that. Some people do. I know I absolutely did when my brother passed away. I questioned what kind of God would allow this to happen. I had a very dear friend who had a late-term miscarriage and lost her baby. And absolutely I would question what kind of God would allow a baby to die like that. It's completely normal. But you might find yourself searching for the bigger meaning of things. It's not just a question of why did this happen? Why did the universe, karma, whatever, allow something like this to happen? It will absolutely cause you to sit back and think about the entire meaning of all existence. It sounds really big and deep, but I know I've sat back and tried to figure out the entire meaning of life. I think we all have, even without a loss. But this is something that we will search for in our lifetime. And whether we search for it externally or internally, that's up to the individual. Maybe if you are a deeply religious person, you might search for these meanings within your church or within your religious texts or within your congregation or other members of your spiritual belief system. You might just search these within yourself. You might search them in the world around you. I know I am very big on nature, and I tend to look at the world through the lens of nature, That was a big one, right? Let's move on to the last need for mourning. The need to receive ongoing support from others. Now, this one's kind of a tricky one in some circumstances. I have met people in the past or heard from people in the past who have said, I don't have anybody I can lean on. I don't have any support. I don't have anybody who can help me through this. And I don't know every single person in the world, and I don't know who does and who does not. But you cannot suffer alone. You need support and you need help, especially when you're dealing with something as big and traumatic as grief and death loss. And yes, there is a possibility that maybe you don't have a big family. Maybe you don't have a big circle, a big social circle of a lot of friends. Maybe you don't have that one bestie you text all day long and, you get to rant to and laugh with. Maybe you don't have that, but there are people that can support you. It might take a little bit of effort on your behalf. It might be trying to find a support group. Even if it's an online, there are so many online grief support groups. I just a cursory Google search and I found like 20, and I believe I've referenced on this website here the different support groups I've joined on Facebook for sibling loss and for, death in general. The Compassionate Friends is huge. And whether you're just meeting people in an online space in coping with grief, there's a big website called Online Grief Support that somebody had told me about that I visited a few times. And there's chat rooms and boards. And maybe you meet somebody on there that has gone through something incredibly similar. And you have a very similar thought process too. And you guys can lean on each other. You're going to be able to find somebody in your life or somebody somewhere who can support you, even if it's just for a day. You stranger at the bus stop sees you're having a rough day and asks you what's going on. And you open up to them a little bit and they buy you a cup of coffee and offer to let you talk to them for 20 minutes, or they just give you the space to deal with what you need to deal with them. These people exist, I promise. Even I don't want to believe it at times. I absolutely go through times of, the world's a terrible place and everybody's awful. We all go through that. But you can't suffer alone. You need to have support. You need to have somebody you can talk to. Again, doesn't have to be somebody physical. Doesn't have to be, Lord knows I don't always feel comfortable talking to my parents about my grief surrounding my brother. I feel like I can talk to my husband about just about anything ever. And he's always amazing and supportive. But, maybe there's something comes up one day that I don't even want to talk to him about. And I would have to find support somewhere else and through somebody else. And that's okay. I have some friends that I can do that with. I can find support online, local support groups. I used to attend, prior to COVID, I would go to a couple support groups for depression and anxiety. And I found some of them very valuable. And I've met some lovely people through those. So yeah, but we need support. We're hardwired to be communal. That's hard for me to say because I'm one of those people that tends to kind of be lone wolf-y at times. I tend to pull back and want to be by myself, but we are hardwired to be communal. That's evolution right there. That's not me just blowing smoke around. This is just how we operate. Okay, good Lord. So those are our six needs for mourning. They're not steps, they're needs. And again, not everybody's going to need every single little detail of everything I mentioned today. And then we're not going to go through all this in order, are we? Because we're going to process our grief in our own way in what works best for us. Cool? Pinky swear on that. I'm sticking my pinky up. You are too. See? We pinky swore. All right. Thank you for tuning in for this episode. I hope you got a little something out of it. Again, I'll leave a link to the book in the show notes, but the book is Companioning the Bereaved, A Soulful Guide for Caregivers by Dr. Alan D. Wolfelt. The amazing Dr. Wolfelt. Love the guy. Check out any of his materials. But this book was very good. It's not necessarily for grief coaches, but it's geared more for people who are helping others work through their grief. Still a fantastic read. I can't recommend it enough. Okay, so that's gonna about do it for this week's episode. So without further ado, it's time for the Death Dirt. Woo! Okay, I'm gonna shuffle up the cards here. Okay, one out the middle. You're approaching the end of your life. Others are making your healthcare decisions. Should price factor in? Oh, man. Well, my gut reaction would be, yeah, of course. I don't like that this question exists. This is the doula and the activist in me. It bothers me. And I've always I make this promise to you now, and I will always make this promise. I will not put politics into this show. I will present research and, stuff objectively as much as I possibly can, although I get on my soapbox, but I'll never make a secret of my dislike of the American healthcare system and the fact that this is even an issue. But I guess to just answer the damn question already, yes but no. That's not a really good answer, but obviously, if I die, I don't want my husband to be penniless after I'm gone. I don't want to completely blow away everything so he has nothing. But at the same time, if it's my last days, I want to enjoy them. I want to go to Europe. I want to do something fun. So, yes, but no. Within reason, I guess. All right. Well, that's it for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'd be curious what your thoughts are on that question. Feel free to reach out to me. My socials, Nikki the Death Doula, and my website, nikkithedeathdoula.com. So hit me up sometime. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you have a wonderful week. And remember, your grief is yours. Your feelings are valid. Grief doesn't always have to suck. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave me a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening today. It really helps the algorithm so more people can find me. But if you'd like to find me elsewhere, I'm at nikkithedeathdoula.com. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram at Nikki the Death Doula. Please feel free to reach out to me there. And if you'd like to support me on Patreon, you can find me at patreon.com/Nikki the Death Doula. As always, all the money I receive from my Patreon goes into a fund so that I can provide pro bono work to those who cannot afford my services. And you'll also get access to bonus content and maybe even a shout out here on the podcast. Scripts, editing, sound design, production, literally everything is done by me, myself, just me. Except for the music. The music is Cheery Monday by Kevin MacLeod, and you can find license information at filmmusic.io/standard-license. And as always, a special shout out to my best friend and husband for continuing to support me along the way.